So many people were heartwarmed, as I was, by this particular scene at the late monarch's funeral, Queen Elizabeth II, as she finally arrived back to her final resting place at Windsor Castle. Wasn't it heartwarming to see her favourite corgis on command, standing guard and looking for their mistress? This was Muick and Sandy. That's right, aren't they adorable? Now it appears though that they've now developed, along with Candy, another fan club. And as ever, let me explain. Good morning, Neil Sean here in the very heart of Yorkshire. Nice to have your company. I know we haven't forgotten Emma, also the pony that was on display, as of course the final sort of arrival back to Windsor Castle of the late monarch. I loved Emma. I thought she looked great on the day, splendid, as did her trainer. Also, can I point out, lots of people have been asking me what's happened to Larry the cat, because he's got a new boss. That's right, Boris went. And how many bosses has Larry had now? He should just be running 10 Downing Street, don't you think? Wonderful, wonderful cat. Not that friendly, I might point out though, you know. I think he's been spoiled, you know. It doesn't matter what you offer, he's not interested. Unless you've got something he wants, he just turns his back or sits in the grid by the main window at 10 Downing Street. But apparently Larry and Liz, yes, there's not a double act, that's the Right Honourable Liz Truss, are getting on famously. In fact, some might say they're getting to know you, as in the case of the very famous song. Liz is a cat lover though, so that's a benefit. Apparently the last Prime Minister, well the first Prime Minister who Larry knew, David Cameron, wasn't too much of a cat lover. Perhaps he could have had a hand in Larry's term, shall we say, getting rid of him. You never know. Larry did like Theresa May though, that's right. Apparently she wasn't a cat lover, but for some reason he liked her. I know, where are we going, eh? Now, back as ever to your breaking royal story of the day. This all centres upon, of course, the late Queen's corgis, who, as we're thrilled to tell you, have been nicely looked after by Sarah, the Duchess of York, and, of course, the Earl of Wessex, alongside Prince Andrew. They've all been rehomed because they just knew how much the corgis meant to her. But what's interesting now is, and we can tell you this first and exclusive on the show, is that all of the social media teams within the royal household have been inundated with requests from people asking if they could have an update, you know, fresh pictures, how they're getting on in their new homes, who's taking them for walks, who's looking after them. You see, animals can take over where humans can't. They become international stars. And as we saw earlier this year when the Queen was readying herself for the Platinum Jubilee, and I know I've mentioned this before, but I thought it was great. She was looking through some local school children's paintings and things that they'd sent in ahead of the Platinum Jubilee, and in walked Candy the dog. And Her Majesty knew exactly why Candy had walked in. She looked down and said, "Oh, I know what you're looking for." She was looking for a treat, of course, didn't get one, and when Her Majesty didn't have one, just turned her heel and walked out. That's how disinterested they are. Doesn't matter whether you're royalty or not. And then, if you recall, Her Majesty invited two senior people to meet her at a very informal meeting in Windsor around about March time. And one of them said, "Oh, it's been a bit tricky to get past the corgis." The Queen seemed a little bit miffed that in fact the corgis might attack them. She said, "Oh, they're normally very good." Maybe they were to her, perhaps a little bit tetchy with other people. But to update you, apparently they're all being really well looked after. Prince Andrew and of course the Duchess of York are taking them out on daily walks, as is the Earl of Wessex too. So we are hopeful that they may even pop up with their own social media channel. Now, I know you might think I'm barking mad, but of course, if there's one way to get hits and one way to get people to understand your message, there's nothing better, is there, than the power of animals, particularly if they're royal corgis. Neil Sean in the very heart of Yorkshire.